Hi, I'm Cherry Duke. I'm the Director of Opera at the University of Texas at El Paso. And today I am very pleased to get to sit down in conversation with our guest composer for this semester, Dr. Maria Thompson Corley. She's joining us from her home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I'm here in my home in El Paso, Texas. And aren't we glad that we figured all this stuff out over
Yes.
the pandemic? Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you, Cherry?
I'm great. We're so excited to have you come and visit us in just a few weeks.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's great. Well, I wanted everybody to know that Dr. Corley, Maria Corley, will be with us in El Paso on Monday, March 27th and Tuesday, March 28th for the world premiere of her new opera for children called The Fox and the Cookie. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that opera later. But there's a few events where you can meet her live and in person, and those are going to be on Monday and Tuesday. I think I'm going to circle back to those after everybody gets to know you a little bit so that they have some context.
Okay.
So why she's coming to town, the world premiere chamber opera for children. How did it come about, Maria?
This opera? Well, it
Yeah.
purely serendipity, divine intervention. I was at the conference for the African American Art Song Alliance, and so were you. And
Yes.
I was actually about to leave with my kids, and there was this huge clap of thunder, and we were like, okay, we should get out of the outdoors and into the indoors. And so ended up sitting in on a session of a new friend that I had made. So that was great. And as I was leaving that session, who did I bump into but you? And we have a mutual friend who lives in Lancaster, where I am, who had told you, unbeknownst to me, that you should say hello. And I am assuming that you liked the song that had been on the program before I was going to leave with my kids. I'm Not an Angry Black Woman, or some other such reason why you asked me if I had a children's opera, and I did not. However, one of my colleagues, Dave Ragland, who is a wonderful composer himself, um, he had suggested, these four art songs that I'd written about fables that involved the fox, the Aesop's fables that involved the fox. He said, these would make maybe a good children's opera. And it wasn't something that I really thought I would ever do. But when you said that, it popped into my head. And so I decided to take up the challenge. There was a very compressed time period in which this had to be finished. So I recall saying, since I was practicing for some major difficult recital programs, that I wasn't sure if I could pull it off. But, if I had a certain amount of music Thanksgiving, then I would say that I could. And if not, I'd say that I couldn't. But the way that I am, it was sort of like once that challenge was in my head, I was gonna finish it. And, um, whether it was slightly crazy or not with the scheduling, I was going to finish it. And so I'm grateful and excited that you threw down that gauntlet, whether you thought you weren't planning to throw down a gauntlet, but I picked it up anyway. So that's the story on my end. I don't know if there's something I missed.
Well, I just want everybody to know that this woman is the Energizer Bunny. I mean, the fact that she not only wrote the opera in basically 2 months, but she also wrote the libretto. Um, I'm assuming we might have some folks watching that don't know these terms that we're throwing out. So we've talked about art song, we've talked about opera, now
Right.
libretto. I'm going to start with libretto, and then maybe you'll tell us what's the difference between art song and opera. So the libretto of an opera, it's an Italian word meaning little book, right? It's the script of the opera. And this woman, Dr. Maria Thompson Corley, is not only a world-class pianist and educator and composer, but she's also a writer. She's written novels, and now she's written her own opera libretto. She's also written a lot of poems, which are the source for many of her art songs. So what's the difference between an art song and an opera? And why do you choose one or the other when you're making a new piece of music?
Art song is a shorter, it's more contained, and one person is going to be singing the song, whereas opera is, a longer dramatic, although it could be one person as well, but it's just a larger form, a longer dramatic arc usually, and typically more characters and staged, whereas art song is going to be just you and your face and your voice conveying the story along with the music. And if it's an opera, then you're going to have costumes and lighting and all the productions of theater. So
Yeah. I like to say an opera is a play that is sung.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a concise way of doing it. True.
What made you want to write this opera besides I said, hey, do you wanna?
um, well, I guess when you know, that idea had been put in my head, but as I started to write the libretto, the theme of just the golden rule and how we treat each other
Mm,
came to me because I mean the Fox character, of course, is not trustworthy, right? He's always
sure.
doing something to scam somebody, and so someone like that to me is not going to be the hero. However, I don't think people are born that way. So, you know, there's always something that turns someone in that direction. And so without making it, you know, super long and super preachy or, you know, full of psychobabble, um, I just wanted to sort of examine the idea that we present ourselves in a certain way, but that maybe isn't all there is to us, and there's always a reason why people are a certain way. And without condoning the bad behavior, because I don't
Right.
condone the bad behavior, but yeah, I just wanted to take those stories out of the realm of just okay, these two characters who do certain things, and maybe flesh out some of the major characters a little bit more. And I think you were the one who suggested the idea of having the grandparent or somebody, a parent, read to a little kid, and that, you know, jumping off point made the whole thing fall into place as to how would I put these stories that I had already created art songs from into the framework of an opera. So that tied it all together and giving them all free reign aside from just interacting as part of the fable was a fun, for me, a fun direction to take it in after, you know, they'd each done their introductory song.
Yeah. What you're going to see when you come to see the Fox and the Cookie at Fox Fine Arts Recital Hall on March 27th or 28th is you'll see the Fox, of course, and he's going to be playing his tricks on the goat and the stork and the crow. And there's also, we also represent the story of the fox and the grapes. The grapes do not come to life and sing and dance, but
Yeah.
everybody else does.
Yes.
We also see the context of how the child who's being told these stories, which most of us are pretty familiar with, because Aesop's Fables is fairly ubiquitous around the globe, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that later because that's an interesting point too. But how the child sees the fox and wants to talk to the fox about why he behaves the way he does. To me, this was revelatory when I read your libretto, that we know that Aesop's fables always have a moral, right? You're known by the company you keep, or you. Some people hate what they cannot have. All these little pithy, if you will, lessons are good advice for children, and that's why probably why the fables began to be told thousands of years ago in the first place. But then you said, hey, this fox wasn't born this way. He was taught to behave in this trickster fashion. Let's have the child be our best human self and say, let's talk to him. And let's talk to the bully, in other words, and let's be kind to people who we don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Such a salient message for our time.
Yeah,
Where
not only be kind, but hopefully in not just coming at the fox, like, you know, the other ones are like, what do you mean? Why do you want to talk to this person? He's done
right,
this and this. But approaching that way as hopefully a way to get the fox to think a little bit about, okay, yeah, why am I doing this? And of course, you know, in reality, you can't always get people to think that deeply, but I think conflict resolution, the idea of conflict resolution and restorative justice. I'm not sure there is restorative justice in this particular piece, but you know,
he just
there,
plain sort of justice.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, yeah, because I think that there's just a better way. You know, there's a better way than just to say I'm right, no, you're right, no, I'm right, no, you're right. And
Right.
even if
Just
this is clearly wrong, even if the person is clearly wrong, as the fox is clearly wrong, um, I think that there just has to be a better way for us to interact and hopefully come to a place where we don't feel so well, without a conscience about doing certain things, because that's the thing, he just sees, these are just victims to be victimized before they victimize him, or this is his worldview. But in the end, perhaps by humanizing them a bit, or being forced to confront the fact that these things that he's doing are not just without just they are hurting people, or
Yeah.
hurting your animals or whatever. And that's just being forced to sit with that and look them in the eye, I think, is a big part of what causes him to maybe reflect a little bit.
Yeah, I love that so much. I just think we need more of that in our society and in our day-to-day interactions, particularly now that we're online so much and we don't have to look people in the eye.
Hmm. Hmm.
If our students are on the phones so much, but not making a call, or not looking at a person, but just texting them, or posting on social media. And so it becomes more difficult whenever you do have a face-to-face conflict to look someone in the eye and really deal with their humanity there in front of you.
Certainly. And I mean, in a lot of spaces, I don't know if your students do this, but you don't even have to use your name, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, this makes me want to talk to you about something else that has been on my mind, and so I'm going to circle back around to the question. So we've talked about how the Fox and the Cookie addresses some really important um, human issues, and so thinking about opera and how a lot of people, probably the majority of Americans, don't think opera is for them, right?
Mhm.
Since the tragedy of a couple of summers ago with George Floyd, we're all becoming a lot more aware and of the injustices in our own society. And many people think that opera is just this very old art form, stories about love and death. And many people have said opera is racist. And they're not wrong that racism exists in opera. But to me, the art form itself, through the power of music and story, can help us to talk about and address some really difficult topics, including but not limited to racism.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Um, yeah, so I want to talk to you about the mini operas that you wrote during the COVID-19 quarantine that
Mm-hmm.
won recognition from the Decameron Opera Coalition. Would you like to tell us a little bit about those two projects?
Yes. So the first one was commissioned by an opera theater based in Minneapolis, I think, or Minnesota anyway. And so I was approached, having had a singer include some of my art songs, actually, in an online presentation. And the director of this tiny little company said, I think you could write an opera. And they had already been cooking up this Decameron Opera Coalition and trying to find a way to keep opera alive with all this theaters shut. And so they came up with these videos. So anyway, the theme for our particular one is the only one that deviated from stories in the Decameron, which is a very old set of stories. And some of them were kind of problematic as far as our current ways of thinking of misogyny and just different things.
Yeah.
So they wanted to address the fact that spousal abuse and abuse in general was skyrocketing because everybody was kind of locked together. And
Yeah.
so the librettist, first-time librettist Jenny O'Connell, in consultation with Brennison Wheeler, who is a director of, I think it's called Women's Advocates. But anyway, she
Oh,
talked to somebody who works with women who have been abused. And her libretto is about a woman who has locked herself in the bathroom and turned on the water, and she's calling her childhood friend, confessing that she is being abused, and also talking through her plan to try to escape. So it's a two-person opera with the offstage husband has like maybe two lines. But yeah, it's very tense and it lasts for about 11 minutes. But in that, tension, there's also the sense of this friend and the friendship and the love and the hope that having these steps and kind of it's trying to tell you also what you should say to your friend, you know, how you should support them and listen to them and validate them. So there are a number of things going on there. And so that was a very small budget. And so it was just for piano, violin, and two singers. That was my, or two, three singers, but yes.
So it was only available on video, right?
It's only on video. Yeah. To my knowledge, it's never been performed other than that video, which was great. We had some great singers. The second one for the next production of the Decameron Opera Coalition, that one was called Heroes. And so this was also Minneapolis-based, the Lyric Opera of the North. And they asked me to do their piece, which was going to be based on 3 living activists in that Minneapolis area. And so another first-time librettist, very different story, very different because it was based on the African American community. And so she called it The Place, and it was this beach where people would unexpectedly end up unexpectedly. And so there were 3 generations of Black people there. The one was the elder, Olive. The second was, his name is Enitan, and he was documenting everything, you know, making a video diary of the things that were going on. And then this young one, Nia, arrives again unexpectedly. She just wakes up on this beach and doesn't know. So anyway, it was a metaphor for generational trauma. And so the idea is that we can move forward together by, you know, like we all have to move forward together. And that's how we get through this. So anyway, I used different instruments for that. I wanted something that sounded, you know, definitely African. So I had marimba. I also had the cello. And also there was a bowed xylophone, because that gave kind of an otherworldly sound, if you've ever heard of bowed xylophone. And then I had a saxophone, an alto sax, which to me crosses, you know, the American. And also there are single reed instruments in Africa. I did a lot of listening and tried to not, you know, I wasn't replicating African music at all, but I just wanted the instrumentation to at least reflect that. So yeah, so that was a really different project. And it included some, you know, spoken word, some, you know, rap influences. You know, the librettist is a young woman, quite a bit younger than I am. So she, you know, had other influences, and so I wanted to reflect her as well. So those are my 2 forays into opera. Before this, there's another project that is percolating, but I'll let you ask about that.
Well, before we go on to that percolating, I
Yeah.
want to make sure everybody knows that if they're intrigued by the 2 operas we just talked about, I believe you can still view them. I know you can see at least one of them on the Decameron Opera Coalition.org website, decameronoperacoalition.org. And I think it's really cool that these video operas are still available online, and you pay $15 to get permission to watch them. So it's like buying a ticket and going to the theater. And, you know, this is the way many people think, oh, we don't want to pay for art when we can watch the TV and get live streams and on Facebook and stuff. But creators are still creating, and it takes hours and hours. I mean, I know for Maria Thompson Corley, it only takes 2 months apparently to write an opera.
Yeah, it took hours. There were a lot of hours in those 2 months, but yeah,
right?
It'll take me some time.
Taking, and if we want art to proliferate, we have to be willing to pay for it. And anyway, I hope that all of you listening, if you can afford to watch things like that, that you will. And also if you can afford to give to your local arts organizations, that you will do that too, because that's how we survive. Not just
$15. $15 is a pizza.
Right. It's a cheap pizza.
Yeah.
It's a really cheap pizza.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay, so the next project, I'm really excited to hear you talk about this, because I don't really know that much about it. I just know we have a lot of mutual friends on the project.
Yeah.
And this is called The Boy from Troy, and it's about Representative John Lewis. So tell us first what it is. It's not exactly an opera.
Well, not at the moment, no. I mean, it may become one, but right now we were calling it an operatorio because there will probably be some staging, but oratorio is when I was learning, first of all, as a kid, they said, you know, for like Frozen opera, in that there's a story And usually there's a chorus and there are soloists, but there's not acting. And in other words, it's not staged. So they will just stand up and sing their part and then sit down and the chorus will do their thing. But, and often setting stories from the Bible or legend or things like that.
Handel's Messiah is the most
Exactly.
famous choreo.
Yeah. I think everybody's heard the Hallelujah chorus. I shouldn't assume, but I think it's popular enough that most people have heard it. You may have heard the Soulful Celebration version if you haven't heard Handel's original, but anyway.
I love it.
Yes, me too. This was brought to me by Diana Solomon Glover, who is the librettist. It was a project that she had come up with, and she actually heard my first Decameron opera, which was called The Sky Where You Are, the one about the abusive husband and the woman who was going to escape him. And so, I shared that with her, and she then asked me to come on board with this project, which is so exciting because, I mean, John Lewis, what a great idea. I'm surprised no one's done this before. So, so it's just in the first stages of development. We've workshopped a few sections of it. And, the whole thing isn't written yet. It's sort of been, we're not sure if it probably will end up being an opera in the end. And so which direction it's going, we're not sure. It may be like there's a piece called Sanctuary Road that started as an oratorio and then ended up being an opera. So now it maybe is looking like it might do that. So anyway, but it's scenes from the life of Representative John Lewis. And ultimately, starting with his youth, preaching to chickens. And there's this scene that depicts Bloody Sunday, which is the march trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge and being met by mounted Alabama officers on horseback. I guess if they're mounted, they're on horseback. And John Lewis's skull was actually cracked during that confrontation. So there's another section where he is talking to Rosa Parks, and they're sort of talking about the possibilities of being an activist and just how what compels them to do that. So that one, we there's music written to it. We didn't get the soloists recorded, but we did manage out of the workshop to get 2 sections recorded. So yeah, for a weekend, that wasn't bad.
Amazing. Well, we actually have a clip from that weekend workshop with Dr. Everett McCorvey conducting.
Yeah.
So this is a choral piece. It's a smallish choir singing. And can you set it up? What exactly are they singing about?
This is actually a section from, if it is what I think it is, I caught, it's the section that doesn't have the soloist added, but it's just a chorus where they're talking about we are soldiers in the army, which is actually a gospel sort of civil rights era tune. I took the words and added different music to the words, and then that I think leads into the different little solo parts in a way that made sense to me.
Yeah. It's very beautiful. Let's hear it. We are soldiers in the army. We have to fight, although we have to cry. We have to
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and there would be soloists like, something taking a high note above that at some point. So yeah. And there's some reference to the gospel tune, the original music earlier on in the movement. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What's next for this piece? You said it might become an opera. You just did the workshop. Where do you see it going in the immediate future?
Well, there's some things that are in the works that I'm not sure, like it's still being worked out, so I can't really say 100%.
What's
Yeah, so there are prospects that should clarify themselves in the next few days. So I have to wait. Yes, exactly.
Well, what do you hope to accomplish with the boy from Troy?
I hope that it is something that people in general will come and see. Again, that idea of opera being able to reach hopefully out and share with people. I mean, I don't want it to be, just didactic history, but I want them to
Right.
live the history in the music, that the music amplifies what is being expressed by the words, and the mood creates, I'm someone who loves movies and really good movie music. I just saw an interview with actually Steven Spielberg and John Williams, and that whole idea that the music's not really a character 100%, but in a way it kind of is, like without
Yep.
that music to support what's going on. So obviously opera is more explicitly that way than a movie will be. But
Sure.
that's my hope, is that John Lewis was such an icon, and he just deserves to be remembered in as many ways as possible. And I'm hoping that this is a way that will catch people's imagination, and that they'll take their kids, or just leave with a feeling, and just an appreciation for just one of the greatest humans, I think, ever. His story
Yeah,
is just so inspirational. Yeah.
it's awesome. Well, you mentioned taking kids to the opera, so let's get into your brand new kids opera, The Fox and the Cookie.
Mhm.
Uh, we have a short clip from that too. This is my students from the University of Texas at El Paso Opera Workshop. They are staging it. That is finding the movements for the characters for the very first time. And this is, you'll see Grandpa Javier Loya telling his granddaughter, Ana Lucia Garcia, the story of the fox and the stork. And you'll see the fox and the stork sitting down to a meal where the fox is tricking the stork. Here we go. The fox tricked the stork 'cause she thought she looked strange. With a smile and tiny range, the fox flew soup from the shallow holes he used when the stork could barely wink her beak. The fox was amused. It's just a little tiny bit there, and the audio is not very good on the iPhone that day, but
But he was getting into it. He was
yeah.
living that mocking fox moment.
We have costumes that we're going to get to see more in depth on Monday. But the
Yeah.
costumes were created by a theater student named Miguel Escotrillas. And so he's building headpieces for the animal people to wear.
Mhm.
And grandma's going to have a very special apron that depicts her love of cookies.
Oh,
And
good.
there's lots of feathers for the birds. It's very exciting. And we've
Yeah.
had another student involvement from, as you know, the graphic design students of, excuse me, Professor Alireza Vaziri.
Mhm.
And so those graphics are going to be part of our show. And it's just been a labor of love. Everybody's very excited about it at school.
That's great. I mean, I've seen, just watching the different designs that the graphic students have come up with. It's just, as I was looking for a word, and one of my friends gave me the word exhilarating. So I think that's
Mhm.
to see it all coming together.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, I want you to know that this show has also inspired professors. Um, Dr. Selfa Chu Melendez is one of our associate deans, and she's a professor of history, and she's also in the African American Studies program as a professor there. And she and I were talking about the project, and she was very excited. And one day she wrote and said, "Hey, what do you think about us doing a panel discussion?" She said, "I'll organize it. It'll be about how Jewish teachings are influenced by Aesop's fables." And
Oh,
oh, I did not know that was
I didn't
That's
know that
real.
either.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
And so I said, yes, absolutely, let's do that. And then I mentioned it to Ali Reza Vaziri, who is from Iran originally, and he said, well, you know that in ancient Persia, there was this book of animal fables called Kalila wa Dimna
Hmm.
that it is not attributed to Aesop, but is absolutely the exact same stories.
Wow.
Thousands of years old. Yes, I had no idea either. So
Wow.
we're going to have on March 21st a session called The Multicultural Impact of Aesop's Fables, featuring Professor Vaziri, Professor Lesser from the math department, who's also in the Jewish Studies program, and Dr. Chu Melendez, as well as several others. Cynthia, is it Cynthia Marin? Sorry, Cristina Morales. That's who it is. Dr. Cristina Morales is also going to talk about how it influenced her in her upbringing. And really excited about that. Unfortunately, you won't be in town yet, but
No, I won't.
we'll it on our Facebook page, on the Opera UTEP Facebook page, so that you can watch it and everybody else can watch it too.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I would love to watch that. Yeah,
And
exciting. Yeah.
and the singers, the student singers, are going to perform um, four of this short scenes, very short scenes, like 12 minutes, to give everybody a taste of what the opera is like, but more importantly, to give some context to these fables.
Hmm.
For
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the themes I identified from the Fox and the Cookie that I'm telling our student audiences about, because we're having lots of little kids come to the show: bullying, understanding, and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about those themes? I mean, we touched on it earlier, but
Yeah, we did touch on the bullying, but I'm, one of the centerpiece musical moments is Jordan, the little child, yeah, sings an aria about why do we call it the golden rule if it's just the golden suggestion?
I love that.
And yeah, and so and this wish that if everybody could make the golden rule their rule, wouldn't the world be a better place? And
Hashtag the golden rule of rule.
yeah, exactly. Yes, I think so. That should go viral. I would love that. And I mean, it seems like there's so many insurmountable almost obstacles, but the fact is that each person in the way that they present in the world, their attitude does make a difference, and that it can influence other people. It can, just as being unkind, as being a bully, etc., or these attitudes of just whoever has the biggest stick is the winner and should be calling the shots. That can influence people too. But I mean, I think, for example, my little nephew who lives in Atlanta goes to a school where in elementary school they're learning conflict resolution. Well, it's really,
Wonderful.
I think, yeah, and that's revolutionary. And I don't know why it can't be done in more places. I mean, that's the sort of thing that we need to be putting in our education. And I don't really understand how anyone could object to that idea of resolving conflicts peacefully and finding ways to get along with people. I mean, it's a private school, so I don't know. But anyway, so understanding, I mean, I think that's the piece of realizing that people are the way they are for a reason, and that nobody is born the way that they are, whether it's good or bad. There are influences that will turn us one way or the other. Now, once we are aware, and that's another thing, once the fox is confronted, um, I mean, we have choices, right?
Right.
There is
Right.
a choice.
There's
And
always a choice.
yes, so
And we're not 100% sure at the end of the show, which way the fox is going to go
Mhm.
with the rest of his life, but maybe he's made to think about things in a new way. Maybe the other creatures are as well.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that everybody's gonna try harder. And I think in the end, if you're just gonna fall back into your default position without trying harder, then nothing is going to change. That's with anything. You're in the habit, this fox is a habit of behaving a certain way, but having it called out and having it pointed out how it affects others, and, being able to sit for a moment with the idea that I was taught this, but maybe there is another way to be. Maybe it's okay and even preferable to have actual friends, as opposed to just using people and realizing that your friends are the people you call your friends. If they are your friends and they kind of are like you, and you can't maybe trust them 100%. So yeah, there are things that I hope that there will be some lesson that is taken away, some little nugget of something that someone will take away from. But yes, I didn't think. I mean, I'm not a complete like rose-colored glasses person. So, as far as the Fox making a final complete about face, I felt like at least the Fox should be shown to try and to think that maybe there's a different way to do things. And I wanted to leave it that, you don't just snap your fingers and undo the damage that you've done to people. You have
Right.
to earn your way back into their trust, because trust is a hard thing to restore once you've lost it. But that it can be done, but you have to do the work.
And it takes from both sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
When we were talking about some of the logistics for this show, you said something about why you wrote what you wrote in this opera. And I wrote it down because I just thought it was so wonderful and I want to share it with everybody. Maria Corley said, "I would love for kindness to come back into fashion and stay there. Starting with children seems like the best way to go about it."
Hmm.
I just thought that was awesome. And then, of course, hashtag make the golden rule a rule.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for writing that down, because I I would never have quoted myself exactly. That was a moment of inspiration. So
I'm going to plaster it on the screen above the stage
excellent. I
at the
love it.
beginning of the opera. Speaking of plastering above the stage, I want everybody also to know that we're going to have what's called super titles for the
Okay.
opera at Fox Fine Arts Recital Hall. And so, if you've seen a foreign film ever, there are the words at the bottom, or closed captioning you've seen on a lot of videos now. Well, this is like that, except it'll be above the actors' heads on the stage, and we have it in English and also translated into Spanish.
Oh, awesome.
Our Spanish dominant audience members. So we want everyone to feel like they can come and have a great time, and they don't need to worry about, can I understand what they're singing? It's all there
Hmm.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we recap all the events that we're going to have when you come to El Paso, March 27th and 28th,
Hmm.
what do you want people to know about any or all of the following three things? Your work, classical music in general, or your new opera, The Fox and the Cookie. What do you want people to know about those things?
Okay. I would say my work is very eclectic, and I don't have a real hierarchy of musical style. If something touches me, it could be almost any style of music can touch me. So I'm trying to, if there are words, I'm trying to just create a mood and convey the essence of the words in a way that I think will communicate. So my music is eclectic, first of all. As far as Western classical music, which I've started saying Western classical music because there are different kinds of classical music.
Right,
India
right.
has a classical music. Um, I once gave a talk to some kids at this place called Crispus Attucks Community Center, and what I was trying to convey to them is that they're just different languages for expressing the same feelings that all humans have. So if I want to say I love you in if it's going to be an R&B song, or if it's going to be I don't know, a country song or whatever kind of song, or if it's going to be in classical Western classical musical form. Um, I just wanted people to not limit themselves to the idea that I should like this, I shouldn't like that. I believe that if you open yourself and open your heart, open your mind, that you won't like everything, but at least allow yourself to consider the possibility that it's like different languages. It's just a different language, a different way of expressing the things that all humans in some level go through, this universal emotions. As far as my a piece of Fox and the Cookie, I don't know. I had a lot of fun writing it at top speed. I tried to incorporate some different, genres and a little bit of rhythm because I like to dance, and so there's a little bit of some rhythmic stuff going on, along with hopefully some pretty tunes and some that will stick in your head. And I wanted it to be a little bit of humor, because I love to laugh and smile. And so just a lot of different elements that I hope what I'm trying to share will be communicated in the way that I tried to share it, and that people will leave feeling with, a smile on their face, feeling like they had a lovely afternoon. So, or evening.
Or all of the above. Well, we're really excited, and I hope that you all out there will consider joining us March 27th and 28th. We have two completely different casts, by the way, so you can come both nights and see two different shows almost. So the first event that we're going to have with Dr. Corley here in El Paso is called Meet the Composer. So if you're curious about the creative process, you'd like to meet Dr. Corley in person, we're going to be meeting at 12:30 on Monday, March 28th in the UTEP Fox Fine Arts Center choir room. That's room M340 at 12:30. Bring your lunch. If it's your lunch hour and you don't have any other time to eat, bring your lunch and we'll just have a nice casual conversation. That's Meet the Composer, Monday, March 28th at 12:30. Then that same evening will be the world premiere at 6:30 p.m. So usually we do things at 7:30, but this is for children. So we wanted the kids to be able to get home at a decent hour on a school night. Plus the UTEP Children's Choir is going to be a part of that very first show. They're going to be singing along with some of those memorable tunes that Maria mentioned at the end. So I hope you'll join us for that. And after that 6:30 p.m. performance on Monday, March 28th, we're going to have a cookie reception where you can again meet the composer as well as the cast members. And then the next day, Tuesday, March 29th, we're going to have a very special Lunch and Learn event. The topic is Black Female Voices in Social Movement. And that will be at 12 o'clock in the Student Union. And the special feature music at this event will be one of our own students, Benny Merriweather, singing I Am Not an Angry Black Woman, composed by Maria Thompson Corley. And she not only composed the music, but the words. And it's a transformative piece. I was so struck when I heard it at the African American Art Song Alliance. It's very important work. And so hopefully you will all join us. That is Tuesday, March 28th, 12 o'clock to 1:30 p.m. It's going to be in the UTEP Student Union West on the second floor. If you're familiar with the UTEP Student Union and you know where the dinner theater is, it's right behind where the dinner theater box office is, in a common area where we've got a piano and everybody is welcome. It's free. And the Women's and Gender Studies program at UTEP is providing a free light lunch. So I hope you'll join us for that. And then finally, that evening, we'll have performance number 2 with a second cast at 6:30 p.m. in the Fox Fine Arts Recital Hall. And if you missed any of this or you want some more information about all the events that we have going on surrounding the Fox and the Cookie, please visit utep.edu/opera. utep.edu/opera. Maria, do you have anything you want to say as we close out our evening together?
No, just how grateful I am to you for all the hard work you've been doing, everything you've been doing to promote this, to pull it together, to get other departments on board. I am just in awe of how you're spinning all these plates at the same time. So thank you to you, Cherry. My hat is off.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled, and I love the interdisciplinary collaboration. I hope that people will see that opera is for everybody, and opera is not just about music. It's about theater, it's about storytelling, it's about culture, it's about meaning, and it's something we can all enjoy together. Mm-hmm. So, thanks for being with us, all of you out there. Dr. Corley, and we'll see you in El Paso very, very soon.
Yes, looking forward to it. Okay.
Thanks.